Alright, these are the Enlightenment notes. And while the Enlightenment in general is kind of boring to talk about, it is one of those things that you don't realize how important it is until rights start being taken away and stuff like that. Okay, so alright, the Age of Enlightenment is basically when they started questioning what was going on before. Following the church without asking questions, being like the church silencing the scientists, and what they were saying, monarchs believing in divine right, things like that. So let's see. So this one is old ways. Again, I'm putting this into the chat. The differences for this one, I'll have put 2 words in one thing, so people have been they'll put extra spaces and stuff like that, so be careful. So it began in France, and then this is going to lead to revolutions in the United States and France. So, number 2, France, US, and France. If you are typing, you can put in US with the periods after each one. You can put in US without any of the periods. You can type out United States completely if you wanted to. Yes.
Is it okay if we put USA?
I don't know. We'll have to check. I thought I may have put it in there, but I'm not positive. So this is how you can see how I actually have to put it in there. So, number 2. No, it is not okay, but I should add that.
Okay.
Alright. Well, it might be... I wouldn't put it in there right now, but it'll be okay in the future. Alright. What were the questions they asked? So this is how were they questioning what was going on. So, and I think we talked about this kind of in Absolute Monarchs, how they were being questioned. So we've got, why should the king have all the power? So this is kind of between how you had Charles the First and Parliament that were arguing, and then James was after that, and it was big back and forth. So we have king, we have freedoms that are untouchable. This was what we talked about yesterday with inalienable rights. Hang on, let me put this in the chat too. So king, freedoms. What are the blank of governmental powers? I do believe that's limits. Limits?
It is.
Yeah.
It's limits.
So how far can a government go?
And then the last one is justice system.
Okay. All right. Thank you. What am I doing? Kaden, do you need the link? I assume that's what you need. All right. So, and this kind of still is a debate today. How involved should the government be? And this is kind of where you get the big differences between Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. So, Democrats would be very supportive of the federal government having quite a bit of power. So, that's the whole United States. Republicans focus on the states having more power versus the entire United States. So let's say North Carolina has power over its area, then South Carolina over its area. So they're a little more specific. And then libertarians, they are like, don't be in my business at all. They would be like, do not, like, no, nothing is your business. You should stay out of our lives. The end. Caden, did you need something else? Okay. And also the justice system was important. So having the judges be separate from the person who's making the laws so that the king can't pardon his friends, so the king can't get away with whatever. So whoever's in charge still has to obey the laws. All right. Number 4, main idea, natural law. Rules are discovered by reason. So 4 is rules. And it is, if we use natural law for science, so if we're talking about gravity, physics, calculus, and so you've got your specific things that are laid out. Instead of having a government and just calling it, oh, so-and-so's in charge, instead, essentially sitting down and coming up with definitions and organizing things so that you end up with less abuses of power. People know what things mean and how powerful other people should be. Side note, if you are not copying, pasting from the chat, then I don't feel sorry for you if you spell something wrong. Because I'm legit sitting here and, like, doing extra.
I like how number 6 is important to people.
Yes.
And that just makes everyone feel like they're so important.
Oh, as a matter of fact, actually, brings up a good point, because I am not very much for memorizing much of anything. I'm like, all right, you can Google it, you just need to know where to find things, and so forth. This is one thing that legit you should memorize. I'm so serious. Because every single time it is on the NCFE, and again, they haven't waived those.
What MP?
The North Carolina final exam. You know how you have the EOGs, right? And then you always have the ones that you got to take with science and social studies. Not science and social, yeah, science and social studies.
I forgot that we did that in this grade.
Yeah.
We were supposed to do this last year, but we didn't do it because the cough.
Yes, exactly. Because the cough. That's amazing.
You shall not speak his name.
Yeah, exactly. So every single year that we have taken it, one, there are multiple questions about the Enlightenment on there. Number two, anytime there's always gonna be some passage, and when you read it, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be written in some kind of way that is not modern day, and it just sounds like it almost makes no sense. Like, you'll have run-on sentences, you'll have commas everywhere, you'll have ellipses everywhere, and if you memorize these, you will not have to read as much. Alright, so let's get into who these people are. Yeah. They weren't that cool.
Wow.
Oh, that was sarcasm.
No, like important cool dudes. Then you put a dog.
Yeah. Alright. First one is Hobbes. Not Hobbies. Hobbes. Then Locke. And then we got some French guys, so that's why their names are odd for people to say. So, Montesquieu. I always have to check the spelling on this one. So, to pronounce it, maybe M-O-N, Mon, and then T-E-S, Tes, and then just pretend the rest of this junk doesn't exist back here.
Montesquieu.
Yeah, and just say that Q, right? So, Montesquieu.
The T is silent.
Montesquieu.
But it's pronounced Montesquieu.
I think so. I think it is. Well, I'd have to look it up. It might even be pronounced even crazier, honestly. Then we have Voltaire. So Volt. So just go like Volt and then air. And then
The E is silent. The E is silent. Voltaire.
Yes. And then Rousseau. So, again, this is one of those, this is very typical French. The way if you see some craziness with a bunch of vowels together, you can be like, yeah, that's probably French. Where you're like, why are there so many vowels? Alright, I put please at least copy and paste Montesquieu.
It's Rousseau. That's how you pronounce it in French. Rousseau. In English, though, it's pronounced without the T.
Montesquieu. Either way, just say it fast.
Montesquieu.
Yeah, if you say it fast, then it's like you won't have to worry about it.
Sounds like mantis.
All right, hang on. Where to go?
Mantis.
All right, let me put it in here. I'm putting it in here so I can check and make sure that I put it in correctly behind the scenes of this. Voltaire and Rousseau. Yeah, so right. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna break it down again, and I will make some games and stuff so we can memorize these, because at the very end you're gonna see why. So number 7, I can tell you right now, this is Hobbes. All right. Oh yeah, so we got a squirrel stuffing its face. Why? Because he believed all people are naturally cruel, greedy, and selfish.
But that's what's wrong with that?
Look at that. Look how he's stuffing his face.
And then the Grammys teacher just like failed and like, oh, excuse me.
So he kind of, okay, and the thing you have to understand about Hobbes specifically is that he grew up during a lot of war, a lot of violence. So his view, and he was actually very peaceful. So to him,
why he sees it like this. He's been scarred.
Exactly. So exactly, that's the perfect way to say that. So since he was so peaceful, it's going to look more dramatic to him when he sees people being violent and doing atrocities and all this other stuff.
Like when he sees this girl, like, look at that selfish squirrel stealing all the peanuts, leaving nothing for the rest.
Exactly.
Although the squirrel's just trying to survive for the winter.
Oh, all right. This is social contract. All right, so let me put this in. So we have 7. This is Hobbes and social contract. All right. So his idea, and some of this does make sense, all right? Life without rules would be hard. Basically, he's saying if everybody acted like an animal, right? Just very, very basic, right? You could, let's say, I don't know. Let's say you're a lion. You killed an antelope, and another lion comes up and just starts taking your antelope. And you're like, but I caught this. But they just take it. So that part kind of sucks.
There were no rules. We would just be attacking each other, wild animals.
Exactly. And you'd have to protect your stuff, and you have to watch over everything, and it's like super stressful. So he introduces an idea of a social contract. Now, basically, this is not a written contract. This exists kind of by country.
Does it still exist?
Yeah. So this is an agreement that people give up their freedom, or some of their freedom, really is what it is, for an organized society. Now, what I'm talking about here, is that you give up your freedom to burn someone else's house down so that other people don't burn your house down.
Just to clarify, you're not giving up all your freedom, right?
Correct. You're not giving it all up. You're just giving up some of it so that you can exist in the world without having to sit on your porch with a gun and just sit there all day guarding your house.
Just like, get off my lawn, you darn kids.
Yeah. So instead, you can lock up your house and leave. You can go different places. And if somebody goes and robs your house, right, then you can call the police. They can investigate. If they find them, they can do all the things, right? So in a sense, we agree in the United States that robbery is wrong. Killing other people, well, depending on the case, is wrong. Like, if it's self-defense, then, we're getting into different details. But let's just say outright planned murder is not going to fly.
That's very wrong.
Right. So you don't have the freedom to just kill people. Right?
There's also fraud. Don't forget fraud. Fraud is also a pretty bad thing to do.
Yes. So basically, we have certain laws so that we're organized. People don't take advantage of stuff. So that's what we're talking about. Now, the problem is when this gets a little over the top. So when maybe politicians are like, oh, we need to help you out because this is dangerous, and they might say it is, and it really isn't that dangerous, or it's unlikely to happen, and so in a sense, they get more control than they should have.
Oh, and don't forget the stolen valor.
Yes. I mean, there's plenty, right? So there's plenty of stuff.
But I'm pretty sure the biggest one there is the stolen valor. Because you're basically frauding yourself as a military person.
I would say it's pretty messed up, but I'm pretty sure murder would outrank that. All right, so here's this is a criticism of social contract. So it's kind of like, all right, I'll jump as long as you say I won't die. So it's kind of like trusting somebody without having, without being able to look down here and see anything. Then there's another one here where this is another kind of comic strip stuff. Why should I obey the law? It's part of the social contract. I didn't sign any social contract. You have to. It's the law.
I don't understand this at all.
So, again, this is criticizing that I didn't agree to this. And this is also, again, what it's doing is going over government overstepping. So, government taking too much control and saying that it's because we're taking some of your freedom because we're protecting you, even though that might not be the case.
I mean, I'm not mad at that, actually. Like, you take a little bit of your freedom, but at least when you go outside of your home, you feel secure.
Right.
Nothing bad's gonna happen.
So let's say, though, this is even more extreme. That's what it's picking on. Kata, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to say, kids, if you're on a boat and someone says to jump off and they tell you you're not going to die, they are very wrong. You are most likely going to die. So don't do that.
Well, technically, it depends if they can swim or not.
Also, if it's a puddle or if it's like the ocean.
True. So like, jump into that pond, but I don't want to. It looks too deep. It's a puddle.
Or if it's a puddle full of leeches, that could also be bad.
Yeah.
All right, next dude. Hang on a second. Did I put all this in? All right, yeah. All right, next guy. John Locke. This guy is the quintessential Enlightenment guy. This is the one where we have the most of our basic laws. The Constitution, Bill of Rights, comes from this guy. All right, let me see what we need to put in here. So, Locke.
Oh, wow. So this man basically did everything we that allows us to beat us.
Yes. This is natural rights, right? Oh, I don't know yet. Yeah, natural rights. This is the life, liberty, and property. Thomas Jefferson ends up changing it to, when he's writing the Declaration of Independence, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I think that sounds good on paper, but I do like the life, liberty, and property a little bit more because it specifies that the things that belong to you belong to you.
So someone, let's say someone takes my Chromebook, like, okay, that's mine.
Yeah.
It's not, it's mine.
Yeah, exactly. He rejected absolute monarchy.
I'm pretty sure the other one would have been better, because haven't you noticed, like, if you actually drop your phone at the store, then he would say, like, it's okay, that's my phone. Like, no, it's not. It's my phone. It's like,
yeah.
I know the password of that. Did you know that?
Right, and it's kind of like, all right, pursuit of happiness. Like, it's not as, it's a little bit less.
It says happiness, like.
Right. It's cryptic. It's not very specific, but life, liberty, and property is pretty specific. So, the right to be alive and live your life. Liberty to have as much freedom as possible without infringing on the freedom of others. So that's another key.
Because everyone's stuck inside their homes.
Yeah. And property, of course, so that just the government can't come and take your stuff, right? Or other people. Now, what he said specifically is that the government exists to protect those things. He's like, that is why they exist, to protect those three things. And so nowadays he might argue the government, according to him, right, would have too much power. Because they're involved in more than just these three things. So, but this is what it is. And so when you had the founding fathers, they went off of this. All right. So this was their thing. They're like, you're here for this. You're not here because the British, when they were in control of colonies, they were taxing them. They were all up in their business. They were quartering soldiers within their homes. They were everywhere, right? He's going to reject absolute monarchy, of course, because he believes that people should have an input. One person could be, you could end up with a good monarch that takes care of the people, but you can also end up with, like Ivan the Terrible. Like, what are you going to do with that? And one of the big things that I think people forget, and it's a little bit more difficult now, is people should be able to overthrow their government. And what's interesting about this is he would say whether it is peaceful or violent, if the government is not working for you, if they're taking advantage of you, he would say that at that point you should be able to overthrow it and put different people in place. Problem now, of course, and this is why initially we had we still have the Second Amendment, but part of that was because at the time the government would have had the same weapons, right? So the idea was to protect yourself from any other government soldiers coming in, from the government coming in and doing whatever. Like, that's legitimately what it was there for. Of course, problem now is the government has tanks and automatic machine guns and all this other stuff, so it's not going to work as well. All right, Pedro, go ahead.
Then they would have these awful guns for war, but now what we have is like a machine gun on a truck.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like it's harder now to protect yourself against the government in a sense.
How terrible was Ivan Terrible?
Oh, pretty bad. He was pretty bad, man. He would kill people. Yeah, but he would kill other people. He blinded the architects who made the palace just so they wouldn't make another palace that was as pretty. Like,
what do you mean blinded?
Like, he blinded them, like, eyeballs. Blinded. Like, they were blind.
So, was that just how bad he was?
That's just like part of it.
Someone's eye.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of it, right? So, all right. Montesquieu. This is one of the ones you need to remember because the question that was on every single year, it is the longest paragraph of all freaking time. And it sounds, I just, like, when I read it, I was like, this is not even, like, it just, to me, it was ridiculous. It's still ridiculous to me. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Separation of powers and checks and balances. Now, this is also a huge part of the United States. So you've got the legislative branch, executive, and judicial. So legislative is Congress. Executive is the president and his cabinet. Judicial is the courts. And checks and balances is that one is not as strong as, is not stronger than the other. All right. Kata?
Okay, I have a question. So I'm putting everything that needs to be capitalized. Is that going to affect it any?
No.
Or do we have to put it?
That won't. That one will be fine. But be very careful with spelling. And if you put an extra space in between these. So I would just copy and paste.
I did not think that test could get any more complicated because I did not understand it at all.
The reason I picked that picture is because he believed that the separation of powers should be into 3, So 3 branches. Hang on, let me put this in here. So this is separation of powers and checks and balances. I did put an example here. So Congress makes a law, but some people believe that law is infringing on their rights. They bring their case to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court finds that the law can infringe on a person's rights. Therefore, the law is thrown out. So you can't just make whatever law you want as in Congress. You have to make sure that it's constitutional. So that's a big deal. All right, Voltaire. Voltaire, his situation was a little amusing at this point. So try to think of when it says, when he believed the church were liars and cheaters. Try to think back to the Spanish Inquisition, to the Reformation, where they would sell blessings, indulgences, they were involved in government, everything like that. So that's why he was mad at them. All right, so it's not like...
Oh, so it was back then when they were like just selling their products?
Almost essentially, yeah, they were selling their products. That's kind of exactly what it was. So hang on, this is church, and this is separation, and this is speech.
Only $9.99.
Basically. All right, let me put this in here. So we have the church, we have separation. If you're typing, separation is separation, not separation, sepa. People are, and I used to do it too, putting the E after the P. Be careful. And then freedom of speech. So he's for freedom of speech because after he criticizes the church, they're like, you can't say that and we're going to kick you out of France. And he's like, but I should be able to criticize you guys if I think you guys are doing messed up things. They're like, no.
He's not wrong, though. He's not wrong, though.
Right. So, well, this is part of our Constitution, too, is right? This freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Both of those are important. One, because if you limit the country to a specific religion, then things are going to happen like they did before. You're going to have in the Reformation and afterwards...
that they would torture people to like, stop believing their beliefs and join a different one?
Pretty much, yeah. So... Right, so you're going to have that. You're going to have people like Bloody Mary, who killed a bunch of Protestants because she was mad. You're going to have people in like the Spanish Inquisition when they, were trying to find out who was lying about being Catholic. You're just going to have all of that. So that's why we have that. The next thing is freedom of speech is pretty critical so that you can criticize the government without them putting you in prison for it. So if you were like, even if you were to say something simple like, this president is doing a bad job and next time we need to vote him out.
You accidentally put freedom instead of speech. Or you're supposed to do speech instead of freedom.
Oh, oops. Yeah, guys. Thank you for catching that. So church, separation, and then, speech. Thank you.
I was noticing it said freedom of freedom. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, thank you. Good. Wait, you get a point for that. Not a point, XP.
I noticed that when you read it. Freedom of freedom.
I'm glad somebody's reading.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think freedom of freedom is a thing. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Oh God, are we actually? Let's not fight about this of all things.
Don't deny it.
Huh? All right. Finding an error.
I'm with you this time. But I don't like it. Oh wow, I already reached level 9, and I barely have enough coins.
Alright, Rousseau. I feel like Rousseau, his big thing is he just kind of agrees with what a lot of other people said. His biggest thing, I feel that's a little different, is that he believed that, like, if as you're born, you're good, but if you're in basically a crappy environment, that can make you corrupted. All right, so let me see. We've got people are inherently good. Government should respect the human rights and rule with the consent of the people. So again, this goes along with what Locke said, is that if the government isn't working for you, then you can overthrow it. At this point, the most you can really do is vote. So vote people out that aren't working for you. So that's the big thing, which is why I'm pretty big on having people vote. No matter who you are, and especially too in North Carolina, because we are very much on the kind of line of, like, your vote, in a sense, it does actually matter. In some other states, it's like, all right, it's going to be Republican, that's what's going to be. Or the other one, it's going to be Democrat, that's what's going to be. North Carolina is very much split. And especially if you are a person who is a minority, you are super critical. Let me just put it that way.
So I'm on level 9 now, and you know how much money I have to make to get to level 9?
I'm gonna start doing Riders of Vay more.
I need 810 gold, and I don't know how I'm gonna raise that much money.
Because I think I'm gonna go in here and do like Riders of Vay.
What does that mean?
Of course, this could be bad. This could also be very bad.
What does that mean?
Let's see. Oh no! It was bad.
Man, at least it's HP, not GB.
Everybody is going down to 20. Alright, I'm gonna do it one more time and see if it's gotta be something good this time. Right? Watch it take all your gold. Where is it? Where is it? Alright, if it takes all your gold, I'm not gonna apply it. No.
Nah, do another one.
I am. So we get something that's like nice. Alright. I guess that's acceptable.
For all mages.
Mm-hmm.
What if you aren't a mage?
Then no. Alright, let's finish this up. Okay, so alright, here is the reason why you need to memorize. This one isn't that bad. I'm also going to show you how you can basically beat the test with this. Alright, so I'm going to read this first. Reason, which is that law teaches all mankind, who would but consult it, that being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. John Locke, Two Treatises on Civil Government, 1689. Notice how many commas there are, and not a lot of periods.
There's 2 commas and no periods.
1, 2, 3. Alright.
Looking at that.
Alright, so which concept of the Enlightenment would the above passage most likely support? Alright, so here's the trick that works most of the time, not all of the time. Alright. So if you go through here and you match up the big words, so nouns and verbs, to what's in the passage, whether it's a direct same word or a synonym, then you're going to find the answer because of the more you have that matchup. All right, so for example, truth can be discovered through reasoning and logic. So what I'm looking for in here is truth, reasoning, and logic. So is truth in here? Nope. Reasoning? Yep, there's one reasoning. Logic? Nope. So we got one for this. Humankind can and should improve over time. So improve time. Nope, no improve, no time. So this one's out. People have the right to equality and freedom. What boots all that all being equal, word right there. Freedom, independent. So we got 1 and 2. And then we also have liberty here, that's freedom. So we got about 3 for this one. And then what is natural is also reasonable. So natural and reasonable. We got reason and no natural. So C is the one in this case that has 3 things that show up. 3. So just by doing that, without looking too deep into this, I've figured out the answer in this case is people have the right to equality and freedom. All right, so remember this thing shuffles, so be careful. I need to hurry up.
Yeah.
All right, so this one I'm going to go a little fast because I need to get to the other one, which shows you...
the answer to make it faster.
Nope.
The answers.
All right, the people are extremely well qualified for choosing those whom they are to entrust with part of their authority, which summarize blah, blah, blah. To lobby for new laws. Nothing about lobbying. To vote for their leaders. Oh, look, vote. Choosing. To vote is choosing. Leaders. Authority. Oh, those match up. Public opinion polls. Doesn't say anything about public opinion polls. Take part in election campaigns. Doesn't say anything about taking part in election campaigns. So, in this case, it's B. But you guys, I don't know which one it is for you. Vote for their leaders.
For me, it was in the same area as yours.
Well, for you. Alright, here is the biggest hot mess of all freaking time. The political liberty of the subject is tranquility of mind, arising from the opinion each person has of his safety. In order to have this liberty, it is requisite the government be so constituted as one man need not be afraid of another. When the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistrates, there can be no liberty, because apprehensions may arise, lest the same monarch or senate should enact tyrannical laws, to execute them in a tyrannical manner. Again, there is no liberty of the power of judging, being not separated from the legislative and executive branch. A. Government should be ruled by a monarch. Government should not give too much liberty to its people. Government should be divided so it remains fair to its citizens. Government should be controlled by one body of magistrates. Now, if you remember who Montesquieu is, then you know he's for separation of powers and checks and balances. So there is only one in here that goes with that. 1, it's not a monarch. 2, it's not too much liberty. He's for liberty. 3, should be divided. That's the answer. And government should be controlled by one. That's a no, too, because he doesn't want that. So, divided. That is Montesquieu. It is divided. So, I could ignore all of this and just go down here and know the answer if I know who Montesquieu is.
Where we go now?
Once you submit, yes.
Okay, bye.